Hey everyone, today we're going to start talking about some of my favorite literature, which is theater. So I think that theater has a lot that could be used to tell the culture and society and feel of the age, and so it's exciting that we're getting ready to go back into theater. So theater in this time period is starting to have a revival, at least in Western civilizations. It had gone away for a while. We weren't really using it. We were relying heavily on oral tradition to entertain. So that's kind of like, a form of traditional theater. But it is coming back. However, it is mainly liturgical, meaning it's written for the church, but we're going to start having elements of drama added into it. So you can think of it as the church is going to use theatrical elements to entertain and to educate. Hildegard van Bingen was a German woman who wrote the Breve Portundum, which is the first kind of theater for this period, and it's about a soul fighting between purity and the devil, and that's going to kind of set the stage for how theater is going to develop in the UK and what's going to be acceptable or not. It is important to note that the United Kingdom went almost a millennium without any form of traditional theater. So yes, we have bards and we might have a court gesture and there's a little bit of entertainment, but it's not true theater as we think of it now. However, because this is liturgical drama, it is limited by location and actors. So like you have to be at or near a church. You're not going to have a lot of professional actors. So it's like, who can they pull in to do this? And again, our goal is to reach the common person. We have three things we want to do. One, we need to address misinformation or superstition. So pull people away maybe from traditional beliefs that the church were calling pagan. You want to educate people on the Bible. So what better way than to entertain them with Bible stories? And then let's also remember that people can't read at this time. So there's no way to just like educate them through giving them something to read. Like we have to actually do that. So let's keep them entertained. So in the medieval drama period, 1350 to 1575 is considered the golden age of medieval drama. What's great to note is that this is a vernacular drama, meaning it's spoken in a common person's language. It's not highly elevated like we might see a little bit later in the Renaissance and even later than that. We're not trying to be very sophisticated with it. Again, we're trying to connect to the common audience. Everyone is also going to be involved. So what's really cool, as you can see on the third note, that like towns will step up to sponsor drama. So it's not like you have this removed elite group of actors or producers or whatever putting it on. Like everyone gets involved and it becomes a community effort. So we don't care who the author is. There is no copyright during this time. An acting company would just own the script itself and they would put it on. So you do see names out of the York play of the Crucifixion. So like York owned that play, and everyone in town would step up to help to put through the play. Now, there are two types of plays during this period mainly. I'm going to tell you today about the mystery play, and then another time we will make sure to talk about morality plays. So mystery plays are not mysteries like whodunit. It comes from the word ministerium, which is Latin for guild. And a lot of these plays are lost, but we call them mystery plays because different guilds, different business groups would put together put together plays and sponsor that part of the play. It does only focus on the story of Christianity. It can give us anything from the Old Testament, so like think Moses, Noah, creation, all the way up through the New Testament, so Jesus and his miracles, his crucifixion, the founding of the Christian church, and then also sometimes they would just talk about Christian history in general. So again, very biblical based stories, that's all they would tell. Different guilds or trade unions would put on the scenes of the play based off their work. So I've given you three examples here. Butchers, they would deal with the death of Christ. They have access to like dead animals and blood so they can make it look real. Pinners would deal with the crucifixion. So a pinner is someone who makes nails. So it makes sense they deal with the crucifixion and the nailing of, Christ to the cross. Fishermen, if they lived in an area that would have fishermen, they might handle the story of Noah's Ark because, again, they have access to boats and water and all those things. So it becomes a truly community-based event. These are performed in public spaces because what's really cool is the crowd would move to different scenes throughout the day, or they might later be on a wagon, and we'll talk more about it, but they're going to happen in public spaces so anyone can access it, and it allows for quick flow as people are moving. There are 2 holidays that you normally see these plays being put on. Just to give you an idea, it wasn't always going on. It was truly a special event that happened, once or twice a year. So everyone really worked hard on it and looked forward to the excitement it would bring for that celebration and faith teaching. However, by the 1570s, mystery plays do get shut down because during the Reformation, it is seen as blasphemous to do this because maybe some plays are getting a little out of hand, or maybe they're not being as reverent, but mystery plays do start to disappear, which is unfortunate, and that's why a lot of them haven't made it into modern times where we could look at it and study it, because the Reformation came through and was like, yeah, no, this is not acceptable. I will note that while this is mainly written for the celebration, there could be some social criticism built into it as well. So that could be why, they don't want people to participate. So how did this work? I'm really glad you asked. It's really fascinating. I'm going to show you pictures in a second of some wagons, but you'd have these things called pageant wagons. Pageant wagons contained set. It would have different scenery, and it could have special effects, which you may be like, how are they doing special effects? They literally would drop people from the sky, or people would drop down into the depths of hell through these pageant wagons, so they could still give scenery and different sets, and you would be like you're in different scenes instead of just having to picture it in your mind. Obviously, there's going to be only male actors, because remember that females are kind of restricted in what they can do and how they're treated, but they're trying to be very realistic. It should feel like you could relate to this person, that could be you, but also realistic as in we're going to use blood and other things as the best special effects we can do for this time. Also, I will note that there's going to be humor. We are going to read one mystery play, and to you it may not feel very humorous, but if we think about the fact that for the time the soldiers would have been doing body humor appropriate to the period, body as in like crude and appropriate, they try to have that a little bit to again make it feel real, like you're really dealing with that working class kind of feel. So here's a quick image of one type of pageant wagon. I know it's a little bit blurry, but I just wanted you to see that you do have the heaven, so someone could be in heaven with angels. Here is the Garden of Eden. So there would be people in a different scenery, and then the below is like supposed to be hell. There's like the mouth that demons or Satan could come in and out. And here's someone dressed like a snake. You can see his tail. So it was not just like a little wagon we're pulling hay on. It was very decorated and elaborate kind of scenery. So just to give you an idea of another way it could look, here again, we've got this wagon. This looks like it's the manger scenes. They built a manger on a large wagon being pulled by teams of horses and pushed. So it was nothing too crazy simple. They built beautiful, and like even this is realistic in that like there's some thatch that needs to be repaired, and they've got mules, it looks like, and all these people, someone over here is working, like they created very realistic moments for them. So specifically, I'm going to have you read the York Play of the Crucifixion. Now, the York Play of the Crucifixion would do 48 plays in one cycle, essentially. So, in one day, excuse me. So you had one big story. There's 48 little pieces, and they would do it all in one day. And they would pull in 500 people to participate. They did this for 250 years, which is amazing, because if we think about the longest lasting Broadway performance, like that's like, I don't know, Phantom of the Opera just ended, and that was on Broadway for 20-ish years, I think. So for 250 years, people are performing the York cycle of Christianity. York was the second most populous and prosperous city, which is why they could have 500 actors and they could do such a extravagant play like that. However, there's some key notes I want you to know about the York play of the Crucifixion. They have a very powerful representation of Christ's humanity. So remember, effective piety going on. So it's going to feel very personal and it's going to move people emotionally. It can be very cruel in some parts because they're trying to get people to understand that you as modern peoples have just as much guilt in the crucifixion as the soldiers did. So they were going to be emotional and cruel to try to evoke that connection and that feeling. So as you're reading it, watch the individual character development of the soldiers. And if you are a Christian, obviously this scene might be like a little emotional and like hard to step back from personally, because it is the play of the crucifixion. That is the key moment in a way for Christianity. However, really think about, how are these soldiers talking? Are they villainized, or are they just real people? If you want to, you can pull it up to like, okay, what might they be the equivalent of today, and how are they handling the task? So just really think about, what are these characters doing? How are they portrayed? And then how might someone in the Middle Ages watching this connect to it or feel about this? And I'm really excited to look at some other types of theater with you as well.